Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. AD starts at the Olympics, and what makes JJ Redick so special? Coach K explains. That's all next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, this one's always free and never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we're going to go hang out with over 25,000 subscribers to the channel. Do want to remind people, if you can, make another Locked On show your second listen of the day. We use it all the time, really to kind of scout around the Western Conference. That is my favorite thing to use the network for. So many great shows. To get insight, the other teams, Andy, they've been doing stuff in this offseason just because the Lakers haven't been doing it. You can check in with Locked On Clippers, Locked On, we had Locked On Blazers on the other day, Locked On Thunder, all of these things, and find out what it means that for the teams that have done things in this offseason. Yeah, just saying, it's out there. There's a lot to catch up on. Do want to let everyone know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. A couple of things we learned on Wednesday at the Olympics. First and foremost, South Sudan is not a bad basketball team. They pushed the U.S. in the preliminaries, and they played a pretty good game again against the U.S. on Monday. The Americans pull away in the end pretty comfortably. But this was a game, if you're following along here, where Anthony Davis started over Joel Embiid, which for a lot of not just Lakers fans, but Team USA fans was a move a long time coming.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Laker fans should not be too excited about this beyond the game because Steve Kerr said afterwards that a lot of the moves that happened in this game, whether you're talking about Joel Embiid not only moving out of the starting lineup, but not playing in this game at all, or Drew Holiday moving to the bench in favor of Jason Tatum, who you may recall did not play at all against Serbia. These are all matchup-dependent moves. And against the next game, Puerto Rico, I believe, Steve Kerr already said Joel Embiid is going to start. I expect Drew Holiday to be back into the starting lineup. Who knows exactly who's going to play from starting five, off the bench, whatever. Other than I think it is safe to assume LeBron is going to play, and I think he's going to keep starting. You don't sit the flag bearer, much less give him a DNP CD. And I would be shocked if Anthony Davis did not play in the game, whether he starts or comes off.
No, he's getting minutes.
Absolutely.
I think that front court, the Embiid thing, but Bam Adebayo and AD are going to play.
Bam was terrific in this game, by the way.
He's just really good, and he's good in this format. And FIBA is a different deal, and I don't not getting into which format's better. And it's a different style of play. So certain players are built for it in ways that others aren't. And then Adebayo, in part, he's a really talented player overall, and pretty good offensive. But just this type of tournament is really where you get to see why he did garner so many DPOY votes and things like that, over the course of his career. I am really excited at the Team USA is moving along just fine. Things are kind of going as expected and whatever. I am really excited at the prospect of Anthony Davis playing these high leverage minutes and being a potential standout for the Lakers, for Team USA, as they get into the medal rounds and all these other things, to the parts of the tournament that you really remember if you're a fan of the Olympics, in ways that can bolster the way we think about Anthony Davis, the way we talk about AD, and perhaps even the way he thinks of himself. Because there really is, Andy, I think, something to performing as one of the 2 or 3 best players on a team like this, in a situation like this. That's different even than performing well in the finals, because it's still your regular team. It's not an all-star team like this.
Yeah, AD in this game, 19 minutes, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 4-7 from the field, also 2 blocks and a turnover. LeBron, 21 minutes, 12 points, 5 and 9 from the field, missed all 3 of his 3-pointers, 2 or 3 from the line, had 7 rebounds, 5 assists, steal, but also 6 turnovers, a couple turnovers from LeBron, very sloppy. But again, these are 2 guys who have been regular standouts and also cornerstones of this team.
I'm not trying to discount LeBron. I just mean, like, nobody's going to remember. I mean, if LeBron goes out and dominates, the semifinals, dominates the finals, and leads Team USA to this, incredible run, like, yeah, people will remember that. It's kind of a crowning achievement for his career. But, like, LeBron doesn't need a lot more boosts, for a legacy standpoint.
He doesn't need it from a legacy standpoint, but I do think something like this becomes memorable for him in the same way. One of the most memorable parts of Kobe's entire career, and with 5 championships in the NBA and an MVP and all the other accolades, 81 down the line, was that 2008 Olympics.
For sure.
And that final against Spain. I mean, like, I actually think that is one of the most memorable parts of Kobe's, pick from a lot of things career. I will say, though, with AD, as much as we want those memorable moments, there was a scare where he had an ankle tweak. He got tangled up with old friend Wenyen Gabriel. He said afterwards, Wenyen being Wenyen, he was kidding. He said, "He's my guy. I was falling and he came down to and just kind of stepped on my foot," but he said that he was 100% afterwards, and AD kept playing. So I'm going to take him at his word that it's okay. And because, as we've talked about before, it is a super team, even though you always have to be concerned about the possibility of injury. The load any of these guys carry is only so big because they don't have to. But that's always the moment that makes you terrified as a Laker fan. Just the idea of something weird happening.
I still watch these games, with kind of like this. I mean, it's like, I'm not worried about. We talk a lot about, like, it'd be better if they, were home. Like, it's just, it's just safer. LeBron building memories, AD potentially, transforming the perception of him around the basketball world, and maybe change. These are all very positive benefits, and I do not begrudge them at all for taking the opportunity. That's not my point. But, like, of course they're going to go play if given the opportunity. It makes me nervous.
You know where LeBron and AD could be building memories? At home with their families.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what's good, Andy? Fishing. Go take the family fishing.
The James and Davis families could actually just go on a vacation together, and then they could go overseas. Yep. LeBron gets the overseas memories with Anthony Davis. Basically the same thing as the
How
Olympics.
often you get to travel the world with friends and family. That's what, so. Yeah. But it is not a matter of being overworked in the tournament. It's a 2-week tournament where there's plenty of time in between games, and they're playing 20 minutes a night, 20 minutes a game. Like, it's not that. It's just this idea of breaking up their normal off-season rhythm in ways that, it's a lot of travel. It is a different kind of training. It's just, so you're just doing things differently than you are normally. And there is the risk of, someone from South Sudan accidentally getting to your foot in a game that is otherwise meaningless, and bad things happen. Anyway, interesting comments from Coach K about JJ Redick, and why Coach K believes that Redick is quite well equipped to be a great head coach. Get to that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. We all love sports. We love them so much we never want the sports to stop, but it is that time of year where you get Fewer sports, fewer games, and the sports aren't sports and like we want them to, but FanDuel lets you, me, and everyone keep the sports going whenever we want. All you got to do is just open up the app, dream up bets anytime you're in the mood, and there are options. Baseball, the Olympics we were just talking about, WNBA, plus the upcoming NBA season 24-25 odds. They're posted as of this recording. Lakers are 35-1 to win the title. Anthony Davis 151 for MVP. LeBron is 200-1. Dalton Connect 10-1 for Rookie of the Year, and Max Christie 150-1 for Most Improved Player. And this summer, FanDuel hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
So we'll get to Redick here in a second, but I do want to ask you, if you're watching Fox or ESPN, are you doing that on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can see us on there sometimes too. That's just, I mean, who doesn't want, Andy, another opportunity to look at this? JJ Redick, obviously the Lakers think that he is going to be a very good coach very quickly. But Coach K, a lot of that gets into, you know, his intellect and, you know, he's an offensive savant and he sees all these other. Mike Krzyzewski was talking about JJ Redick and broke it down in different terms that I thought were really interesting.
Yeah, he was on with Colin Cowherd and was asked about JJ Redick and taking on this role with the Lakers, first time head coach. And Coach K said, for me, JJ is amazingly competitive and is prepared as well as any player that I coached at Duke. He's smart, he's confident, and he understands the game. And having 15 years as a pro, he has empathy for the guy trying to make it when he's trying and makes it, and for the veteran who is still trying to make it. He was never a superstar in the NBA, but he certainly was a superstar and the National Player of the Year when he played in college. So I think he has empathy for what a roster would look like. He certainly understands the pro game, and he desperately wants to be a coach. I think he surrounded himself up to now, I don't know his entire staff, but with some veteran coaches that will help him. I love him. I think he's terrific, and I think he can relate to his players at the best level. And the part that stuck out to both of us, you know, wasn't the idea that Coach K would sing Redick's praises or say that he's ready or whatever. Because I mean, the guy was part of the search committee that felt very transparently wired to steer the Lakers towards JJ Redick. So what the hell else is he going to say?
There wasn't a lot of searching going on in that committee.
Yeah, it was a finger quotes search committee. I mean, really what they were searching for was the finals to end so they could officially hire JJ Redick.
Search for a glide path to JJ Redick.
But you know, there was, to be fair, I guess, a brief off-ramp period of.
Do you need a committee to go kick the tires on Dan Hurley? Just shouldn't take a committee for that.
No, it did not. But what did jump out at both of us, though, was that idea of being able to relate to all of the players across the roster, regardless of their stature now, you know, LeBron all the way down to Bronny, or, you know, the paths that they've taken to get in the NBA, the paths that they've had to take just to stay in the NBA. And that concept that JJ Redick could see a bit of himself in all these guys and therefore understand them in ways that would bring out the best in them.
I agree with that. And I think where all of this goes for me is reinforcing the idea of this is why everyone thinks JJ Redick will be a good coach. Like, he's got the mind for it. He's obviously, if you're impressive enough with the way you see the game, talk about the game, draw up the game, and all that kind of stuff to impress LeBron, then you're probably pretty good. Like, you know, your vision of stuff, your ability to not stop where the average coach would stop at step 5, your ability to go 6 or 7 or rearrange the pieces or all that kind of stuff. This is obvious. If you can impress LeBron, that is a good barometer for impressing me. And he clearly did. And, you know, the work ethic is famous. Like some of his stories that he tells about like how regimented he was and the amount of shots that he would have to hit and the amount of, you know, how he would eat his food and all these other things. Like the guy is going to be, Andy, what's the word Rob Pelinka wants?
He's a grinder.
He's a grinder. Yeah. He's going to eat, sleep, and drink this stuff. Like,
yeah.
And so, like all of that's good. And then you add to it, like, that's an interesting perspective. Like he has played long enough and filled enough roles over the course of his NBA career, and then supplemented that with the understanding of what it is to be a star on a roster when he was a Duke. Like, that's all cool. Like, I am 100% on board with adding that to the list of reasons why Redick would be a good coach. None of it, though, reveals whether or not Redick will be good now and like good enough now. It all tilts to, if anybody, he's more prepared than you think. He's got valuable experience. But he's never been a coach. And so what we don't have is any evidence, and he has no training in the specific job that he's going to be asked to do. And like, it's not that I don't think he'll ever be good. And it's just a question of not whether or not it'll be good fast enough, as good as he needs to be to shepherd a flawed team as far as it can go.
It's interesting. I have described this on a few occasions, Redick's hiring, as, even with all of the credentials that I think Redick does legitimately offer, as you know, we talked about before, an intellect, a competitor, a basketball junkie, a very, very good communicator. I do think he has a certain charisma, you know, that can be necessary just to hold a room, so you can make sure guys are listening to you on a day in, day out basis. Like, I think all of those things are real. He strikes me as somebody who has spent a lot of time, you know, mentally note-taking the way a lot of his coaches operated, because I imagine JJ Redick pictured at least the possibility of coaching while he was an active player. And Redick strikes me as just somebody who does the research on blank, gathers the intel on whatever he finds interesting, because he just seems to be that type of person. But it is still, in a lot of ways, a vibes hire, because you are hiring on based on everything other than his track record with the thing that you're hiring him to do. It's not that that's never happened before, but in terms of guys who've literally never even been around the coach in any capacity other than as a player, it's unusual. And look, there are examples of it working out very well. There are examples of it working out extremely poorly. If I had to guess, I would peg Redick as somebody who would come closer to the working out well than the flaming out disastrously, just because I think Redick is starting out with a roster that's good enough and a rapport with his star player that probably gives him a certain degree of cushion just to avoid a flat out utter disaster.
Sure.
But that being said, it really is a vibes hire, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it progresses this season and moving forward.
You know, the expression, you know, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's duck. And that's true almost all the time. Like the Lakers have seen Red, he walks like a duck, he talks like a duck, he acts like a duck, and he quacks like a duck, but they're not totally sure he's a duck. He's never seen him duck. He's not a duck. Like, we don't know. And I think he will be a duck and a good duck. It's just, you know, there is a learning curve. And so it's how quick he picks it up. It's how fast the staff.
They're rolling the dice on him being a Duck. Like, they truly don't have any actual evidence.
They're not a duckling, like a full-grown duck. Like
they have not done. They have not done a 21andMe to like figure out exactly JJ Redick's duck genealogy. I mean,
I swear, like out of somebody could like they could pull a tiny snippet of this conversation, and it's going to seem strange, but in context, this duck thing works.
Exactly.
So let's say it is another thing to add to the list of reasons why Redick should be good at this job. And a reason to look at as we all try to figure out how quickly he can adapt so that at least by the playoffs, you've got yourselves a pretty good coach. Look at the mailbag a little bit. There's an interesting article from our friend Jovan Buha about Max Christie. Plenty more to get to next. I always like Andy to start the mailbag questions with something simple. We can kind of ease our way into it, warm up a little bit, if you will. This one from Ismail Rico, 1866. How unlikely is it for the Lakers to grab Markkanen from Utah were they to shop him?
Quite. That ain't happening, kids. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but I would find it stunning, if the Lakers could outbid the rest of the league in a package for Lauri Markkanen, and B, if they could outbid the rest of the league in a package for Lauri Markkanen in a deal that has to get signed off by Danny Ainge.
Yeah, that's true. He used to play for the Celtics.
Yeah, that feels unlikely. Unlikely, I mean there's not an effing shot in hell.
I don't even think that, pulling out the old Obi-Wan and the land speeder, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Like, that kind of power still wouldn't get Danny Ainge to make that. You know what? I do think 2 first-rounders, Rui Hachimura and Max Christie, is enough to get this deal done. Let's make it happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame because, oh my God, I'd love to see Lauri Markkanen on the Lakers, but I am afraid that it's not gonna happen.
I do think it's possible, though, really quickly. I do think it is possible that whatever happens with Lauri Markkanen, and the big date to look for is August 6th at the absolute latest. It is possible that whatever happens with Markkanen, whether in a deal or whether him just staying in Utah and the rest of league business can start up again, I do think resolution with Markkanen could indirectly affect the Lakers in terms of them starting. Yeah, it opens
things up. I would agree with that. It is the quality of the draft this year and the fact that the Pelicans elected to take this year versus last year. It's both it is a testament to the strength of this year's draft and the depth of this year's draft, but it's also a bit of a referendum on where they think the Lakers are going, that they think they're going to be worse than the than the pick. So like I say that, or than the 17th pick that they would have this year. I say that mostly because there could be some unusually intense tanking going on this year, not because there isn't just one Wembanyama at the top. There a lot of scouts think 3, 4, 5, 6 really good players at the top of this draft. So we'll see how that goes. An interesting question, again from Ismail Rico, kind of follows up. What is something of value we can get for Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, and or Christian Wood?
An open roster spot.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
Unless, and I think this is a long shot, but I was thinking a little bit. I was listening to the Lakers Film Room podcast, and they were talking about the back of the bench and, the dilemma we've talked about whether you're talking about JHS, Maxwell Lewis or Bronny, who are just completely unproven, or guys like Reddish, Hayes, and maybe you could have a little more optimism for Wood just because there is a track record of sorts. But those guys who seem like they don't fit with what the Lakers want to do anymore, but they have no trade value moving forward, the veterans minimum guys that got the player options that they all ended up picking up. And they were talking about how in the past there's been a couple of vet min guys like Lonnie Walker or Troy Brown Jr. that, you know, for veterans minimum guys did their job as well as you possibly could ask, which was be capable rotation players if needed. They're not the answer, but if you put them on the floor, they're not likely going to hurt anything either. You know, both of them in that playoff run had moments where they played well. Lonnie Walker had that one incredible game against Golden State. And Troy Brown, I thought on balance was solid over the course of the year and certainly played up to what I expected. I was wondering if maybe rather than just looking to attach picks to Wood or Hayes or Reddish just to dump them, maybe you could attach picks to them to trade them for a different, more useful veterans minimum guy. Like I have no idea who that is. And unfortunately, Troy Brown.
Yeah, I mean, that's even because that's essentially what you're doing, even if you're not doing it in a straight up heads up trade.
Right.
Is you're essentially opening up that spot to trade that player and a second round pick probably for, you know, a veterans minimum guy. Who that is, which is a question. I have no idea. I just genuinely do not know.
Well, it got me also looking up just to jog my memory. Troy Brown Jr. and Lonnie Walker are currently unsigned free agents, so you can't trade literally for them. But that's the only other thing I can think about with those guys.
You could open up the space. Not really players of need necessarily, but last one on this, and just to extend this, and we'll get to Max Christie tomorrow. This from @LikeTheChili, or it could be Chile, like the Chile. I'm not sure. It's spelled like Chile. Do you think there's value in keeping Christian Wood because of his ability to play next to AD and act a stretch 4 or 5? I remember early in his stretch, he was guarding KD really well and would act almost as a backup Vando. I don't know if the defense was always, quite that strong, but he did have some moments. And I will say, of those three guys that, the 1 year guys that all came back with Hayes and Wood and Reddish, I do think Wood still is the guy with the most potential to truly make an impact this year. I think there will be stretches and games where Hayes becomes useful. Everybody is tired of hearing me talk about Cam Reddish, but Wood is a very talented player with who can play next to Anthony Davis, at least offensively. And if he can stay healthy and with creative coaching and, good scheming, I do think there is the potential for Wood to still be a very useful part of this rotation, like on a daily basis. Whereas like Hayes feels more like a spot guy to me.
Maybe. I mean, I think of the three guys we're talking about, Hayes offers the most upside, not necessarily because he's the younger, more theoretically untapped, less fully formed player, but just because I think there's certain things Jackson Hayes can do that few other guys on this roster can do in terms of verticality and just sheer athleticism, that sort of energy, the rim running, all that. Wood is, though, the more proven guy between him, Hayes, and Reddish. And, Wood, I actually think one thing that they did miss from him when he was hurt so much was his work on the defensive glass. Like that was actually something that I think probably Christian Wood did best on balance the entire year. The biggest problem, though, with finding that utility in Christian Wood is at the end of the day, his greatest, most established skill as a player is his ability to score. And he only has so many opportunities to score on this team. I mean, I remember when they first signed Wood, that was actually a question that you pretty astutely raised in thinking about the pluses and minuses of Wood. You're just like, if he only gets, say, 7 or 8 shots a game, how effective will he actually be? How much of an impact can he really make?
And he had moments where he was a little better defensively than I expected, and he had and the rebounding actually was useful. So,
that game that Chile is referring to with Durant defensively, I remember that game. He did do a very good job.
And so we'll see, because this time he really is playing for his next contract and all that. Like last year, Rob gave everybody an out. This year, we'll see. Let's get after it. Anyway, we'll get to this Max Christie question tomorrow. Keep sending us questions. Keep sending us. You can do it in the comments section of the Locked On Lakers YouTube page. You can do it as you saw today at Cam Brothers. That's where a lot of those questions came from, was people asking us at Cam Brothers. And, those are really the best ways to reach us. We definitely want to use as many of this stuff as we can. So thank you for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of the day, your second listen. How about making it the Locked On NBA podcast? There is no offseason in the NBA. That's why we keep doing the show every freaking day. And Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. Again, you can see us there sometimes. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see everyone on Friday.